Water. A person cannot last more than 3 days without it. Most of us rely heavily on our city to provide our water to us. But what happens if those utilities get shut off and our water no longer comes out of our tap? Do we have a way to gather water, to purify it, and to store it for our families to use? Water, along with fire, food, and shelter, are the 4 essential elements to consider when preparing for a disaster situation. We'll get into that in today's video.
So what does it mean to be prepared for a disaster situation? What type of disaster are we trying to prepare for? Well, if you've had your eyes open at all, you'll know this world is growing more and more unstable with each passing day. Hardly a day goes by that you can't get on the news and see some news story that's out about some kind of terrorist attack or a war across seas or something that's just catastrophic to somebody somewhere. Maybe it's not you yet, but it could be you next. I know right now in our history, I believe we have the worst political turmoil since possibly the Civil War. We have terrorist sleeper cells here in America right now that I believe are waiting for the green light to attack us, and I believe some already have. We have drone swarms in multiple states that apparently nobody knows who they belong to or what they are or why they're there, but don't worry, the FBI is investigating it, so we know that we'll never get answers. We also have wildfires in Los Angeles that is just wreaking havoc on billions of dollars worth of property, and my heart does go out to each one of those that has been affected by it. I couldn't imagine losing everything, especially in that way, and our prayers do go out to you. We also have Chinese hackers that are attacking our critical infrastructures, our water. I know American Water, which is a company that we use here in Indiana, was something that was targeted by them and has been affected by them. I don't know to what degree. They say it's nothing too critical, that we are still able to use it, but it is something that has happened, and that's something that we depend on. That's something that we use every single day, and someone else is out there possibly who knows what they're putting into it. But I don't want to place my trust in someone else that don't want to do me harm to have control over my water. Now, 99% of the things that I just mentioned, I have no control over. I can't keep China from hacking into different things. I can't keep wars from breaking out. I can't keep wildfires from taking my home from me. But what I can do is focus on me and my family and what I can do to provide the 4 essential elements for their survival and for mine, which is water, food, fire, and shelter. Water is something that's essential for survival for every living organism on this earth, whether you're a plant, whether you're an animal, whether you're a person, whether you're rich, or whether you're poor. Every single one of us need water to live. So what I want to focus on for myself and for my family is a way to gather water, a way to store water, and a way to purify that water for use. So do you have a way to gather water? Do you have a way to purify that water? Do you have a way to store that water? I know that they suggest a gallon per person per day when it comes to water, and that is the bare minimum. Think about how much water you use on a daily basis, how much water you use to clean, how much water you use to cook with, how much water you use to clean yourself, not just the areas around you like the table or something like that, but how much water do you use? Would a gallon be enough for you and your family? Now, that is the bare minimum. I would suggest being able to have more than that if possible. How are you going to store that water? Are you going to have a swimming pool in your backyard just full of water, just waiting for that day that you have to dip into it to use it? Now, that is an option, but you have chemicals you got to get out of it if you're going to use it. But what I want to focus on is simple ways that everyday Americans and anybody, anywhere around the world can do this and provide for themselves. So when it comes to purifying that water, there's several different options that you could use. There's more expensive options, such as the Berkey, which the Berkey is a very good filter. We have one in our home. We use it every single day for every single need that we have when it comes to water. Now, we don't use it for watering our garden, but we do use it for filling up our water bottles. We use it for our coffee maker. We use it for cooking, whether we're just using a little bowl of soup or whether we're doing something on the stove. Now, there are others in the household that may not be as diehard about it as I am, but when it comes to using that water, I try to use it as much as I can. Of course, I don't use it for bathing right now because my water that's coming out of my tap is useful, but there may come a time where I can't trust it and I may have to rely on purified water or some other way of cleaning myself. But there are also cheaper ways than going with something like the Berkey. The Berkey, I know the one that we have, cost us, I believe it's between $400 and $500. Now that is not cheap. A lot of people cannot do that. They can't afford to foot that bill right up front. And that's fine. You don't have to do that. There are cheaper options. Like I said, you can go with something as small as the Sawyer filter that can be found at Walmart, Academy Sports, Myers. Now, certain places don't sell them. I know our Walmart has quit selling them for some reason. They do still sell the Life Straws, which Life Straws I don't encourage you to buy if you are going to be relying on that solely for your water purification. Why is that? They are very popular, and I believe they do filter water, but the problem with that is it is a life straw. It is strictly a straw. So what that means is it's something that you can take from a water source into your mouth, and that is it. The only way you can get that water into a pot to cook or into a water bottle to store for later would be to suck it up through the straw and then to spit it into the cup or the pot, which kind of defeats the purpose of it being purified. But if it's a last resort, you're going to be boiling that water, by all means, suck it up, spit it into the pot. But for a simpler and more easier way, I would suggest something like the Sawyer mini filters. Now, these filters are great. They say that they are able to filter up to 100,000 gallons of water, which in my mind, that's just insane. Now, with that, of course, that is with proper maintenance. If you just keep using it and never clean it, then you're not going to get that much out of it. But with proper maintenance, you can use it up to that amount, so they say. So this here is the Sawyer mini filter. It's very small, so you can put it into a backpack. You can keep it in your car, wherever it is you might think you need it. Keep several of them if you have the money and are able to purchase them. They are very cheap. I was able to pick this one up for about $30. I got this one from Academy Sports. So it comes with the filter. It also comes with a syringe. This is what you would use to clean it when you're done using it. Simply, you would take the purified water that you get from this. Of course, you would fill it up, and then you would, let's see, which way is that? The flow is going this way. So you would actually go from this way, fill it with clean water, put it back in here, and basically push all of that dirt and whatever else is in that water out. And you could use this for a lot of water. So what do you get for $30 with that purchase? It does come, of course, with the filter, comes with the syringe to clean it. It also comes with a collapsible water bottle, which is great. It is very sturdy, so you can put a lot of pressure on it when you're trying to squeeze into a pot or into your water bottle to use it. It also comes with a straw if you want to use that for some reason. I would not, but I still have it because it's part of the kit. For just $30, you now have a way to purify your water for you and your family. Of course, this is going to be a lot slower of a process than if you were to use something bigger like a Berkey or some other system. But for $20, $30, you can't beat it. So now that you have a way to purify that water, now you want to focus on a way to store that water. So what me and my family use is something that we purchased from Walmart. We have two of them, and they are blue 6-gallon jugs that we got out of the camping section for around $20 a piece. Now that price could change because inflation is just out the roof, but that's what we purchased it for about 2-3 months ago. I have those sitting next to our Berkey. They are full, and what that does is that gives me a little bit of a buffer if something was to happen. I have time, I do have the energy, the capability to go and collect water, whether that's collecting it off of my roof or whether that's going out to a river, a nearby water source and collecting it, bringing it in. But that does give me a buffer to be able to have a few gallons of water for my family so that I can work on something for maybe a longer term situation, which could happen. You just never know. Now, I know there's people out there that have these humongous systems. They have maybe access to a well. We don't have that. I wish we did, but we don't. I know there are those out there that have the big IBC tanks to collect rainwater and water harvesting systems that are just way more than I can afford right now, and maybe a lot of you could afford. But I want to focus on things that each one can do, maybe more difficult, maybe more labor intensive, but it will help you in a disaster situation. I would suggest keeping these things in a single place, whether that's inside of a backpack, whether that's in some kind of tote that you can get to. Me personally, I carry a backpack. I try to take one with me almost everywhere that I go, because you never know what's going to happen when disaster strikes. You want to know you have it on you so that you can provide for yourself and your family if they're with you. So the next category we're going to talk about is fire. Do you know how to build a fire? Do you know how to start a fire? How are you with a flint and steel? Are you able to start one with a lighter? I would hope so. If you do not have these skills, I would suggest that you train. If you're a child, please use extreme caution. Even if you're an adult, use caution. But if there are children watching this video, please use caution with anything that I show you in this video. Do not do it without adult supervision. Make sure your parents are nearby to help you with all these things. Now, I do suggest even children. I know my son, he's only 8 years old, but I do have a fire kit in his backpack. He has several knives in his backpack. I trust him with it. He's had them since he was maybe 4, 5 years old. He knows how to use them. He's very careful with them. Yes, he's cut himself a few times, but that's how you learn. I was a kid. We were all kids once. You're going to get hurt, but it's good to do it under adult supervision rather than just going out and burning your house down. My cousin almost burnt their house down. So kids, please be careful. So when it comes to fires, there are several ways that you can start a fire. The easiest method would be to use a blowtorch. But it's hard to fit a blowtorch into your backpack. It takes up a lot of space, a lot of weight. I would not suggest doing that. Learn to be able to start a fire with something such as a lighter. Now, if you're able to start a fire with flint and steel, that's great, but I would not suggest relying solely on that. I mean, why make things harder when you're in a tough situation? It's not a bad idea to have things in your pack to help make things easier when disaster strikes. Now, when it comes to fire, what is it that a fire does? Well, it provides heat. It provides a way to warm you and your family. It provides a way to cook. It provides security. If you're out in the woods and you have a fire, a lot of times predators won't come near your fire. Now, that is different if you're in a non-permissive environment. Maybe there's people that are there wanting to harm you. You don't want to give your space away, so I would suggest not using a fire. But for the most part, fires provide those things for you. So how does that translate into your home? How can you bring a fire into your home? If you don't have a fireplace or a wood stove or a pellet stove, something along those lines, you can't really have a fire in your home. If you did, it'd be very unsafe, carbon monoxide poisoning. You could lose your home, lose your family, lose yourself, and that would defeat the purpose of being prepared. So don't do that. But you can think of ways to provide those elements that a fire does give you in your home without having an open flame. So a way to heat your home. I know what me and my family have as an emergency backup to our furnace is a small Mr. Heater Little Buddy heater. It's the one ceramic panel hook up to a propane tank. It takes the smaller canisters, but we also have a way to hook it up to the larger 20-pound or bigger propane tanks, which will then last you quite a while. So with that heater, I'm able to provide heat for my home, even though I may have to section off a few rooms in order to get that heat focused in one area where we are, but it does give me a way to heat my home. It also gives me a way to cook. The faceplate of that, you can flip it around, set it up in a way that it will hold a small pot. You could boil water and you could cook food. Now, it may not be a 3-course Thanksgiving dinner unless you or your spouse or your girlfriend are just phenomenal cooks and can just work magic. Now, if you can do that, more power to you. Do it if you want to. But for most of us, normal people like myself, I would have to focus on just simple meals, such as things that would just take water, such as instant mashed potatoes or oatmeal or mac and cheese, or just something small and easy that you can cook over the pot for you and your family to eat. Now, those little heaters, they are safe for indoor use. If you do use them, please use caution. I don't want anybody to die because of carbon monoxide poisoning. So make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector and also have plenty of ventilation when you have these things in use. So the third category I want to focus on is food. So what is it that we should consider when thinking about food for us in those situations? What I would suggest is foods that do not require refrigeration. Those foods will be the first to go in a grid down situation. Your power goes out. natural disaster, whatever it may be, you cannot rely on anything that requires electricity to keep those foods stable. So that would leave us with canned goods, boxed goods such as pastas. We have soups. There's just a number of things that you can keep on hand in case you have to use them. So what does that look like if we're out away from our home, if we're forced to flee our home because there's a threat coming that we can't control, we can't stop it, such as those fires, and we have to leave quickly? What I would suggest is keeping some things in your pack to help sustain you and your family. Now, when it comes to your backpacks, you also do not want to have to carry everything on one person for the entire family. The bigger your family, the more you have to carry. So what I would suggest is if there are people in your home that are capable of carrying a pack, try and have a pack for each person that would have their essential items in it. Now, if the younger kids are old enough that you can trust them with a fire starting kit, a pocket knife, something like that, put them in there. I mean, they're your children. You know what they're capable of. You know how mature they are. If you are able to trust them with it, of course, put it in there, because worst case scenario, your kids become separated from you. You want them to be able to survive as best as they can, of course, until you're able to find them again on their own. Also, when it comes to your packs, you do not want to overload your pack. All these things that I'm mentioning to you today are rather light. You don't have to have a ton of stuff in your packs. Of course, the more skills that you have, the more prepared you are mentally, not just with items, the less items that you have to carry. So they do suggest you do not go over a quarter of your body weight. Now, that does depend on your physical fitness. If you're severely overweight and you're unable to move just with your own weight without anything extra on you, that, of course, is going to cause a whole different set of problems. Now, if you are out of shape, I know myself, I am out of shape a little bit. I am trying to get back into shape. I'm exercising in the evenings when I can. We have been sick recently. I've been laying off of it because I don't want anything extra to make me feel worse. But do try and exercise. Try and get out. Wear your backpack. Fill it with the things that you need. And just do exercises around the house. Do squats. I mean, how's it going to be when you're climbing stairs, or if you're running with it? Get on a treadmill with your backpack and just do simple jogs. Doesn't have to be anything too strenuous, but you do want to know that you're capable of carrying those things that you will need. So I know the food that I carry in my backpack it's very simple. I have a 6-pack of Cliff Bars that I have in there. I mean, I have the macadamia nut, I think the white chocolate macadamia nut flavored. They probably are my favorite, so that's why they're in there. Now, they are calorie dense. They last quite a while. Even if they're expired, I've ate them. I haven't got sick. At least if I did, I didn't die from it. Now, that's a good option. You could use any other, quick granola bars that you enjoy. Now, you can put items in there that you have to cook, but remember, you will have to have a fire for that. So it's easier to have items that you don't have to cook. You can get a quick snack if you're on the go, whatever the case may be. Couple that with a water bottle, a way to purify that water, as we already mentioned, and you've got your food and your water taken care of. Now, for a longer situation, this I'm not talking about something that's just indefinite. If you're talking about indefinite situation and you're opening up something that is way bigger than what we're discussing today. This is just going over something that'll help you in a 3 or so day scenario. Now, for a longer disaster, these items will still help you. It'll give you a buffer while you're building traps, while you're making a shelter, while you're gathering water so that you can purify it, whether that's boiling it or running it through a filter. So there are options to help you in those longer situations. What I'm looking at today is just something to help get you started if you have nothing. Now, a more seasoned, prepared person will watch this video and think these are just the basics. They are the basics, but the basics will keep you alive. Lastly, I want to talk about shelter. So when it comes to shelter, of course, if you have your home, if it's not been destroyed, and I'm sorry for those that it has been, but if you do have your home, you do have your shelter. Take care of that shelter. Take care of your home. If you have things in your home that need repaired and you're able to do that, do it. It's hard to keep a home warm. It's hard to keep It's hard to keep a home safe if you have broken windows. You have a lot of drafts that are coming through in multiple rooms. Try and get those sealed up. It's going to be hard to keep intruders from coming into your home. Like I said, if you have broken glass, they can just get in on ground level, or any level for that matter. Try and take care of your home. If you're unable to do it yourself, try and find somebody that'll help you. I'm sure you have friends or neighbors I'd be more than happy to help in that situation if it's something they know that you need. Now, if your home has been taken from you, something you can consider using would be a tarp. A tarp with some paracord. You can fashion a small structure for you and your family to sleep in for the meantime. You can use a camping tent. I know there's camping tents that can fit into your backpack. I know the more expensive ones are going to be the lighter ones, which will be useful if you're carrying them inside your pack. I know my wife and I, we have a backpacking tent. It's big enough to fit our whole family. It cost us about $100 from Cabela's, and that was about 2 years ago. So it could be $3,000 now with the way inflation's going. I hate to say that, but stuff is just ridiculous. Something else to consider is if you don't use a tarp or if you don't use a tent, do you know how to fashion a structure? Do you know how to build one just from tree limbs you would find out in nature? Can you build a lean-to? Can you build an A-frame? Do you know how to tie good knots? Can you tie a bowline? Can you tie a clove hitch? These are things that are going to be very useful when building structures. Something you do want to have in your pack or on your person at all times is a good knife. A good knife is something that is absolutely crucial. I would say would probably be the #1 tool to have. I know the knife that I carry on a daily basis is Cold Steel Spartan. These things are huge. Of course, they are not for everybody. I would not give this to my son, but for me, I absolutely love it. It's phenomenal. I've used it for gutting deer. I've used it for cutting carrots up inside the house. I've used it for peeling potatoes. I've used it for slicing humongous holes in my thumb because I was stupid and trying to cut a plumbing line inside of a boat. That ended with me grabbing my thumb, throwing my knife on the floor, and calling myself a moron, and I knew better. But they are great. I love that knife. I would not trade it for anything, even though I cannot use my pocket when it's in there. So the knife that I do have in my backpack is a knife that I purchased at an 1812 reenactment several years back. I do not remember the name of the people that made it, but it is a custom knife. I purchased it for maybe around $50, $60, including the sheath. A great little knife. It is a high carbon steel, so I can use this for striking a fire if I need to. Now, I don't want that to be my sole way of starting a fire, but if I need to, I could do it with this. Now, it is a fixed blade knife, which means if the handle was for some reason to come off, I would still have a way to grip it. I could fashion another handle. In the meantime, that is why you don't want to use a fixed blade, or I'm sorry, you don't want to use a folder for everything because it does have that joint that is very weak. You could use this to baton wood, and I have used the other one for batoning wood as well, but it is still a potential for that joint breaking. So get a good fixed blade knife. You will not regret it. Keep that in your pack at all times. So when it comes to shelter, what I have in my pack is an 8x10 tarp that I picked up from Ollie's. Pair that with some paracord, and you're able to throw a shelter together in minimal time. Now, like I said, you can use the tarp, use a tent, whatever it is you want to do, whatever you feel comfortable with, do it. Just have some means of providing a shelter in the case of an emergency. Now, guys, when it comes to being prepared, I know I've went over several items here that I think are crucial that you would need in an emergency. But guys, I do want to let you know the #1 preparedness item that I would encourage you to have, and that's the Lord. Guys, we're all going to die one of these days. Doesn't matter how much we prepare. We could have bunkers. We could have everything, all the food we can imagine. We could have water stockpiled up to our ears. Wouldn't matter. Friends, we're all going to die one of these days. But friends, keep Jesus on your side. Make peace with him. Make peace with others. Whatever it is you have to get right in your life. I know it may be difficult, may be hard. But guys, do not ignore that. I know I may lose some people on that comment. I may, but I want you to know that that is what this channel is about. It's centered around the Lord. It is centered around preparedness. But friends, at the center of that preparedness concept is keeping him in the center of everything. So guys, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay prepared. Appreciate you. Bye.